The origin of Lancelot. When the young King Arthur took power, he was confronted with much internal dissent. Several nobles would rise up against him. But Arthur also had allies. King Ban of Benoic was one of them, and thanks to his help, Arthur succeeded in pacifying his kingdom. Back in his kingdom, which lay across the English Channel, King Ban would meet his youngest son, who had been born during his absence. He would be christened Galahad, but would go down in history with the nickname Lancelot. King Ban would soon find himself in serious trouble. There was a Frankish king named Claudas, whose expansionist ambitions and tyranny would make him a dangerous enemy of King Ban and his brother Bors. War was inevitable. The brother kings would lead their troops to engage King Claudas's large army that was stationed in the region of Gaul. Ban and Bor counted on the help of their young sons who had just been knighted, Sir Lionel and Sir Bors the Younger. A major battle ensued, and Arthur's allies would obtain a Cadmean victory. Despite winning the bout, the king's army had been all but destroyed. Additionally, King Bors would perish in battle, and the young knights Lionel and Bors were captured. King Ban returned to his fortress with the rest of his men, knowing that Claudas, despite his defeat, still had plenty of men in reserve. It would not be long before he would lay siege to his fortress. Ban understood that his fortress could hold out for a long time. Its fall would be inevitable. But Ban still had one last alternative.
"My dear, we must leave for Arthur's lands, where you and little Galahad will be safe. With the help of Arthur's army, we will drive Claudas's men from our lands."
Before the enemy army surrounded their fortress, King Ban, his wife Elaine, and their baby managed to escape. As they drove through a dense forest, Ban, who was a Christian, yet still attached to the old Breton gods, asked those to protect them during this dangerous journey. Ban was then hit by a projectile that knocked him off his horse.
"This time you won't escape, noble King Ban."
That was Claudas rejoicing his victory over his enemy. Ban cried out for his wife to flee and save his son's life. Elaine quickly galloped to the shores of a lake, but she knew she was being pursued. Her horse got bogged down in the mud and she could no longer advance, while Claudas's minions came closer. This was when, from the midst of the waters, a beautiful and noble figure emerged. It introduced itself as Vivian, the Lady of the Lake, and asked the queen to hand the child to her. She unbelievably walked on the mud without sinking. The Lady of the Lake had to push hard to separate the child from the mother's arms, who resisted and wept. With the child in her arms, who smiled at the fairy of Avalon, she said that from that day forward, he would be known as Lancelot of the Lake. King Ban would be killed by Claudas, who usurped his throne. Elaine would join a monastery to wait for Vivian's promise to be fulfilled. As an adult, her son would return as a great knight and take back all that was rightfully his.